I'd like to call the regular school board meeting into order. At this point, all members are here, so 7 members are present for the roll call. I'd ask that we'd have a moment of silence, please. At this time, could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are to the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt tonight's agenda? Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, so the agenda has passed. Presentations and recognitions. We have the Virginia Student Council Association Advisor of the Year, 2024-2025, Mrs. Donna Frazier's, with Mr. Hallman and Miss Abby Brown. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm honored for this recognition to introduce a young lady that has become familiar to all of us. She's an Eastern View graduate. She's a 4-time member of the Superintendent's Advisory Board, and she's about to be a UVA student. So I'm going to introduce Abby Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you. Come up and stand. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to speak about Mrs. Frazier and her recent achievement. Both high schools are members of the Virginia Student Councils Association, or VSCA, and we have had a successful year at the state level. Both councils have earned the Achievement Award, the highest honor the VSCA awards. We have had several students serve on the advisory committee, planning events for the state. We have had a student serve as a region representative, hosting a convention with over 100 students attending, and I was able to serve as a state membership coordinator, connecting with schools all over the Commonwealth. But I think our biggest accomplishment this year was Mrs. Frazier being awarded Advisor of the Year for the state. Every year, VSCA puts out for nominations for this award for an advisor who has done an exemplary job in promoting and fostering council activities. They also require a letter of recommendation from a student council officer and their principal. I would like to share with you my letter of recommendation. To whom it may concern, it is with great pleasure that I nominate my advisor, Mrs. Deanna Frazier, for the 2024-2025 Advisor of the Year. I have known Mrs. Frazier for the past 4 years and currently serve as the student council president at our school. I met Mrs. Frazier at the beginning of my freshman year, eager to start my journey with student council in high school. I unfortunately did not win the election for class council, but Mrs. Frazier was there to encourage me to still be a part of SEA. That year, I got to know her through another program she sponsored, the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy. There, I got to know her more on a more personal level and see her leadership teachings face to face. This only inspired me to be a better leader, student, and person, and the lessons she shared with me still resonate today. Fast forward to this present year, and the way Mrs. Frazier has grown our student council is something that I could not have imagined. What started as something small has grown into a leading organization with over 40 members. She constantly seeks opportunities for us to learn as well as become better leaders. When I had asked her to let me join the VSCA Advisory Committee or run for state office, she did not hesitate to support me and ask what I needed, even if that meant giving up time with her family to support her students in their endeavors. Her backing of not only SCA, but of other school organizations is endless. Whenever another group asks for help, she is there to assist them, which only doesn't show her kindness, but the way she is teaching us teamwork. Our student council has added many projects to our yearly calendar, which has added more time and work. Mrs. Frazier has not blinked an eye to what we have added to our schedules because one of her biggest goals is to improve our school culture. She mans the planning and execution of the homecoming dance and all of the activities that come with it, and in my opinion is one of the best events in the school year. While it is enjoyable, I know it is a lot of work and she pulls it off flawlessly. She has also supported the addition of our Looking for Love Valentine's activity, which gives every kid in the school a heart with their name on it. On top of that, she has helped us with our goal of school beautification, in which we are taking on projects to improve the way our school is seen. In addition to caring about the students, she cares about the staff at her school, adding activities for them as well. Some of the things she does for the staff include a teacher breakfast at the beginning of the school year, as well as planning underground spirit days for them. Our school spirit has grown tremendously, not only in students, but also in staff, and that has to do with Mrs. Frazier's leadership. Mrs. Frazier is the kind of teacher and advisor that someone hopes to meet. Her undying love for educating the next generation can be seen in spending a few moments in her classroom. The way she connects with her students and create bonds to last years to come is amazing. She's one of the most popular teachers in school, where students are constantly going to her for advice. She always makes time for them and makes them feel welcome and appreciated. The way she guides students to help them achieve their goals is so supportive. My life has been forever changed and blessed by meeting her. I know I will always be successful by having her in my corner, and that always doesn't mean winning something tangible. It means being successful in life, but being a kind, caring, well-rounded human being, ready to help and serve others just like she has taught me and others around me, and has exemplified in her own life. Mrs. Frazier is truly deserving of this award, and I thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Abigail Brown. She was awarded this award at our conference on April 4th at Parkview High School, with over 500 students and many other advisors attending, so it was a great celebration. So thank you, and thank you for allowing me to represent her.
Does any member on the board want to say anything? Nope. Go for it.
Deanna, I just want to say congratulations and thank you for prioritizing our students in our schools. Thank you. Congratulations.
Well said, Ms. Smith. Congratulations, Ms. Frazier, and good job, Abby, writing such a great letter that really captures the essence of Ms. Frazier. Congratulations to all of you.
All right. You? Yes, sir.
I have to turn on my mic. Ms. Frazier, you're not going to escape. Please come up to the mic and at a minimum, introduce these young people who came to a school board meeting in June after being out of school. So who's your crew here today? And if you'd like to say anything at all about this nomination and your recognition. So we appreciate what you do.
So I have Abby Brown, who was our SEA president this year.
We've heard of her.
I know. Do you know her?
Yes.
Yeah, she's all right? And then I have Izzy Brown, her sister. I have Kamaya Turner. She is going to be our senior class president this year. Jacob Galindo, who is going to be our SEA vice president this year. And then I have Lena and Muna Abed, who have following a long line of Abeds that I've had with me in SCA. They're, I think, number 4 and 5 I've had. Maybe 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Kaiser was never official. I just want to say thank you. We do a whole lot in SCA, and it's definitely a spot that I think sometimes people forget about, but we do a whole lot, and Abby has done a whole lot, and so is CCHS. Mary Jo Hyde and I work together. We talk probably once a week during the school year about like, okay, what are you guys doing for this? What do you think about this? Do you think we could pull this off? How about if you do this with us? So I think it's just a great way to bring our schools together in a county where there's only 2 high schools as opposed to some of these counties that have 15 high schools. Mary Jo and I both have always said it's super important to work together. So this was a big deal for both of us, I think. So thank you.
Very good. At this time, the student principals report. Germanna Future Educators Academy, Mrs. Ms. Mary Beth Artali, FEA Coordinator.
It's okay. It's recent. Thank you all for having me tonight. I am Mary Beth Dodson. I am the FEA coordinator for Germanna Community College. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our program. Our vision for the Future Educators Academy is that we are going to provide an accelerated, high-quality teacher education program that leads to licensure, but it also leads to them coming back and being in your schools. We have a partnership between community colleges, universities, and the public school divisions in our area. Implementation started last fall. We started with 17 students, and you, Culpeper, brought us 6 of them, 3 from Eastern View and 3 from Culpeper. The expectation is that the students will earn an associate's degree while they're with me for 2 years, transfer to a 4-year university, and finish their degree, their bachelor's degree in education, and then come back and spend 2 years at least in your division. And there's a big partnership happening between our public schools and Germanna. So we have Culpeper, Madison, Orange, and Rappahannock, but we're a team. These people have been helping me nonstop. And I'll call over, I'll say, hey, Michelle, I need somewhere to put my students. Or, Miss Campbell, can I send some Rappahannock students to Sycamore Park? Yes, she said, bring them, let me help them. And it's been phenomenal, the partnerships that we've been able to mold, and Chloe Edwards helping me understand data and report to the state the way that we need to. We also have college partnerships with George Mason, Shenandoah, University of Mary Washington, Mary Baldwin that are all signed at this point. We're partnering with Laurel Ridge, and Old Dominion serves as our fiscal agent, as well as a partnering university where they can transfer into in their 3rd year, but for their 4-year university. All of our classes happen at the Daniel Technology Center. So we're bringing all of the school divisions into us to learn together in a cohort model. And that is very, very important because they are learning from each other and they are forming bonds that will last them throughout their teaching. So if someone's teaching 1st grade in Orange and someone's teaching 1st grade in Culpeper and they need some extra help or somebody they depend on, they can lean on each other as well in that way. We are governed by a governing board, much like this. I have my own board, and Dr. Brad sits as our chair on that board, as well as other superintendents from our partnering school divisions, Germanna and Laurel Ridge Community College presidents, and our fiscal agent sends a representative as well from ODU. Our advisory board is made up of instructional leaders from our divisions, and that first meeting happens, it started when we wrote the grant, but our first meeting is going to be later on this month to discuss some more things we're trying to do with the school. Our deans from the college, and we all of that board reports then to the governing board to make final decisions. I am oversee the day-to-day operations. I report to the governing board. I collaborate with the school divisions and the colleges. I make all the partnership agreements, and I complete all the reports for VDOE and anything extra. So the MOUs with the school divisions, basically somewhat of a principal level, but then I do some of the central office work all as one. That's the best way to describe what I do. Then we have an FEA advisor that will be starting, thankfully. We went through a couple hiring processes. I wasn't pleased with the first one, and I said, no, we're not gonna hire any of these. And we started again because it requires a special person for this position. It is a very special job, and this is a special program, an academy, and I wanted to make sure that we're giving the best to our students. So we were able to hire within the 2nd round of advisor interviews, and that person will assist me with clerical tasks, student support, and be a liaison to our partners like our parents and some of our schools if we need to talk to the counselors and things like that. Our FEA instructors are all Germanna Community College professors, so they're getting all of their schooling through and they're seasoned professors. We're not just throwing anyone in there. We're being selective of which instructors we're using. Our school divisions assist me in providing all the hands-on practicum experiences like we talked about, all of the SOL testing that they would need to take or WISE testing they take back at their school division. The counseling, nursing, and transportation services are all provided by the divisions, and we have an agreement to where I pay them for those services. Our curriculum is here. I'm not going to read through it, but basically it's an AS in education, and that is what they will get. We made sure that it lined up with Transfer Virginia, but it's super transferable to every public institution. So if they don't want to go to one of the colleges that I have an agreement with, it's still super transferable into all the other public institutions and most private at this point. And they'll earn their associate's degree in education as well as get their high school diploma at the same time. And that's the really special part is we had Mr. Hammond was on the board that helped design this curriculum to make sure that we were meeting all of the high school requirements and putting it together in such a way that it satisfied their high school diploma as well. So that's really important to remember. A typical day is the students arrive at their normal high school and then they'll come over to Germanna on a bus. If they drive, they're allowed to drive to Germanna. They'll attend their first class and we'll have a break. During that break, we usually provide them with snacks or some drinks, some things like that. And that's when I'll talk to them about things that are happening or upcoming events. Then they'll return to their classroom and they'll have a second class. It's an A-B schedule. So Mondays and Wednesdays, they have one class, well, two classes, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays, they'll have two classes. Fridays, we have flex days, but we also have a class for the incoming juniors this year. So then after they attend their second class, they return back to their high school for their lunch and their normal afternoon activities. So if they're taking an afternoon class, if they, several of them are doing the Little Cyclones or the Little Knights program, so they're getting extra education there, and then they participate in their typical evening events. Several of my students are in clubs or play sports. Or the theater programs at both schools are really big for my students. They really enjoy those. So our academic support, anything that we offer at Germanna for a student, we offer to these students as well. So they are allowed to use all of our student services, including the tutoring programs. So if you're familiar with Germanna, we have ACE Tutoring Center, but we also have online tutoring, and we also have 24-hour tutoring. So if they're those students that like to procrastinate and they waited till the last minute, there's still someone there that can help them. We offer mentoring for peers, peer mentoring, as well as teacher mentors that will mentor our students from their base school divisions. We give them practicums where they go into our schools and they're partnered with a teacher, and that is where they get a lot of that good hands-on experience and they're able to teach some lessons. Flex Fridays, we have guest speakers that come in from the school divisions that we're partnered with and some outside those divisions that I have met through the years, or I have a recommendation to pull that person in to talk to the students. And in those instances, they talk about classroom preparedness, what good classroom management looks like, all of those types of things. And then I also work with them to prepare for praxis, to make sure that they are ready to take that when they leave us. Up next, you'll see the innovative learning environment that we provide. This is top corner. We were talking in EDU 207, which is human growth and development, about anxiety and test anxiety and how it's so real for students. So we played the game Perfection. I don't know if you've ever played that game, but the buzzer is buzzing. You're given a bunch of little pieces and they all sort of look alike and you have to fit them in the shapes just right. And so we had one student do it first by themselves and we all watched them. And, you know, organically you hear, no, that one goes there. No, are you sure that's the right one? Which is exactly what happens in a child's head during test anxiety. So then we put another person with them and we talked about accommodations and how once we layer the correct accommodations for a student, they can become more successful. And wouldn't you know, they made it happen before the buzzer went off. So it was a really good learning environment for that to happen. On the next 3 pictures, this was a guest speaker that came in to talk about how to organize your classroom and how you set up your classroom matters, and putting too much up is not healthy and not putting enough is not healthy, and just finding the right balance. And she used Fred Jones' Tools for Teaching as one of her basics. The minimum eligibility to get into the program is that you have to be a junior. And then you have 3 verified credits by the end of your sophomore year. You're in good academic standing. We would like you to have a GPA of a 3.0. We also provide testing into it if you do not meet that requirement and you have a good recommendation from your school counselor. They said, no, they can do it. This is what they need. Because there are instances when students have gone through things that have caused their GPA to go down. Maybe there was a death in the family or something like that. And then, of course, they're in good disciplinary standing with their division. Some challenges that we have faced so far, VDOE licensure requirements. Thank God for Chloe Edwards. She is amazing. Navigating those with her has been, it's been a battle, but she has been resilient and helpful, and partnered right alongside of me as we emailed and called and put the pressure on. She even ran up, Michelle told me this later, that she ran up and tracked down the person at a conference to make sure that she got us on top of the docket that he was working on. Solidifying paid internships for our students outside their division, that's something that we're working on. And it's a challenge because some of my students really do need to work to support their families or support their situation. So we're trying to find that in a way that's beneficial to them. Lab school publicity, informing the public of how positive it is to be an FEA and what FEA is bringing to their community. Because I don't know about you all, but I've had teachers in schools that change over too much. And this is going to be kids that are from here, will stay here. They already have roots here. And we're hoping that that means that they will, be there for the long haul, which helps a school. It helps a school environment. Looking forward, we're starting a new cohort in Laurel Ridge Middletown campus. They will have 21 students. Their students are from Clark, Page, Shenandoah, Warren, and Winchester counties. We're actually taking their fall year students at our campus. We are going to beginning our second cohort. Last year we had 17 students. This year we have 25 students. You all are now, so this past year you sent me 6. This year you're sending me 13. So you more than doubled. So that is awesome. If you're going to have some new teachers coming in 4 years, which will be fantastic. I'm going to continue to make partnerships and articulation agreements with 4-year institutions and work on establishing some scholarships with the 4-year institutions. Some 4-year institutions learned that we have multiple vying for our students, trying to get our students. And I was on a call last week with one of the universities and they said, oh, we've got to do better. We've got to offer more. We've got to get incentivized, which is good. We want that. So then they're providing more monetary support or maybe a special scholarship just for our students, which is what we're looking for. And this is a picture of our ribbon cutting ceremony from the beginning of the year. And I look at that and I think, oh my goodness, those are babies to who they are now. This was in August, and just last March, they came to me. I was doing the orientation. I said, I need a few of you, just a few of you to come and help me at orientation. Maybe talk about what you like and things like that. And they said, oh no, we're all coming. And I was like, all of you, okay. It ended up being the majority. I think I had 12 total that showed up. They ran the whole night. Miss Campbell was there and she can attest to that. I didn't have to do much. They ran the night. They talked about the apps that we use for communication. They talked about our schedule. They took the new students on tours of the school, gave them the little inside, tips and things like that. And it was phenomenal to see their growth from this picture to where they are now. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Not a question, but it's amazing what you've already accomplished, and thank you so much. I know there's a lot, and it's really exciting. I know we're all excited to see, how things are progressing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Completely agree, and thank you so much, and thanks for this presentation. It's exciting, and it's exciting to see you supporting them and helping them to be successful. So thank you.
Well, Culpeper's special to me because I started here. This is where I started teaching years ago with Michelle and Renee. So it's a big deal to support where I started and the people that gave me that start.
It's very exciting to see the increase, the number of students in wanting to be a part of the program. So that bodes well for the future.
And the word of mouth, the students did a lot of that, which helps.
Ms. Burnett, did you?
Thank you, Mrs. Dodson. The wonderful presentation. I love your enthusiasm and energy, and we are so happy and excited for this program. And I just love to see that we're doubling in our the kids we send to it. This is wonderful. This is great.
Thank you.
Obviously echoing what the other people are saying, but it's nice that you're emphasizing that they're a cohort, and so that even when they are out maybe in different counties, it's always good to have a mentor and a cohort and a colleague that you can rely on. And it's also very reassuring that our staff here has been so helpful to you. And
So
that's
helpful.
always good to hear, and glad that you're supporting Culpeper. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. I just think it's a wonderful program to begin with. But since you've been through a whole year now, and you're still smiling, and you're standing there, and you love everything, and the orientation probably boosted up that number coming in next year, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ms. Dodson,
Yes.
congratulations on that. And the incoming class at both Laurel Ridge and at Germanna here, Culpeper, what does it look like? Do you have any young men?
Yes, thank you. I
Oh.
forgot to say that. Thank
Okay.
you. We started with 0 men, and that happened at orientation. One fella came in, and we had a male, and the girls got excited. They go, "Oh, a male! We finally have a male!" I said, "No, we have 3. So we have triple. We have 3 males coming in." And that's exciting. And
Smart
actually,
young men.
Yes.
Okay. Just-
and our advisor is a male that's coming on board, and I think that's going to help with some of that recruitment as well.
And what about maybe a parent perspective on the program?
I think Miss Campbell would be
I think she
wonderful
would be
to speak
fantastic.
on that, wouldn't
Yes.
she? Come on.
Come on
Miss
up, Miss Campbell. I'm not sure if the board knows this, but Miss Campbell's daughter is in the program. I think I've shared that over at time. Thank you, Miss Campbell.
I kind of get to serve as a double agent because my daughter's in the program. Her school handled everything, which was fantastic. So it was completely her decision, but it's been fantastic. When Miss Artali Dotson talks about the cohort, these girls are they're like a sorority in a way. Like they're still like chatting all summer long about things. I knew when Miss Artali got married because that was all a buzz for the girls who could find the first picture and things. So they're such a nice family. I also, as an employee here, were able to host some of the girls coming into the schools, and that was fantastic. So my job is, I think I got girls that were not from Culpeper. I had Orange and Rappahannock, so we were trying to recruit, for Culpeper as much as we can. And it was funny. Those girls I thought they would never leave in a way. Like they kept coming back, and they wanted to do more things. And I was like, you're supposed to return to your base school, and the kids aren't going to be here tomorrow. You can't come back. But they're super excited and definitely committed to, I think, to being great educators. I know during the practicum experience, they were very, very mature in the classrooms. They weren't there just kind of for fun and games and to help out. They couldn't wait to come back and tell what little thing they picked up from a teacher, or, they couldn't wait to tell me, can you believe Miss Smith is a second-year teacher? She's wondering, they were so interested in learning. So the whole experience, from a parent perspective, I would also say, if your child has any interest at all in becoming an educator, this is a fantastic program to join. It's been well organized. Everything has run exactly the way it was explained to us. And even for being in the first year of a cohort where things have to be, kinks have to be worked out, either those kinks were worked out behind the scenes very carefully and we were never aware of them, or, things were just as well planned as could be, which again, with the first year, there have to be kinks. So it's just been a wonderful experience. So as an educator, to see young kids wanting, because we also know that, we're not having as many educators come out of four-year prep programs as we were used to a few decades ago. So this is definitely exciting. And then as a parent, it's been a wonderful experience. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, we were up to the delegations, requests to speak. I have no on the list, but is there anyone that wishes to speak? Obviously, none of our employees are rushing forward, so we'll say that's not a necessity. Consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes from May 12th and May 19th, and payroll and payment of bills. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say so. All right. Action items. Approval of the VSBA policy updates, one read only. Is there a motion to accept these VSBA policy updates?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I would like to suggest that we accept I must say it the correct way, I'm sorry, the VSBA policies on one read only tonight as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. We will go to the next one, which is approval of CCPS non-VSBA policy/regulations, one read only. Is there a motion to accept?
I move that we approve the non-VSBA policies and regs for CCPS, one read only.
Is there a second?
Second.
I got Mrs. Baker. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Approval of the Special Ed Advisory Committee SEAC members for 25-26. Is there a motion to accept?
Madam Chair, I'd like to accept the approval of the Special Education Advisory Committee members for 2025, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are down to approval of CCPS CTE local plan for 25-26. Is there a motion to accept?
Madam Chair, I move we approve the CTE local plan for 25-26.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I've called Mrs. Hutchins before, Ms. Burnett. Any discussion? Hearing none. Is there, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And the last action item is the authorization of the superintendent to fill vacancies between June 23rd, 2025 and August 11th, 2025. Is there a motion to accept?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the superintendent to fill vacancies between June 23rd, 2025 and August 11th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are now into the superintendent staff reports. We will begin with the superintendent updates with graduation information and health insurance information from Dr. Brads.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Thank you very much. We had commencement just a little over 3 weeks ago. And at this time, we'd like to do our normal sharing of our graduation information from both high schools. I don't have the clicker, we'll just click through quickly. Culpeper County High School, we'll start with Culpeper County. You see your number of graduates there. And as we like to highlight at commencement, we like to do the by the numbers, so to speak. And the by the numbers make us very proud in terms of the students that are graduating, entering the workforce, entering the military, 2-year, 4-year, technical schools, trade schools, you have it, you name it, we have that covered. And we survey our students, but not only survey them, but through the hard work of our guidance department, school counselors find out what the plans are. So that's where this information comes from. Also, Ms. Randy Richards-Lutz helps us gather this information, so we appreciate that because you can see that there's some heavy information on credentialing, both credentialing and state licensure information that's in there that we have with our graduates. You see the ones that have earned industry credential and college credit. Also, it's the number of students with associate's degree. We'll go to the next page. I'm not going to read each number for you. You'll see that, and it's in your board docs presentation as well. That's a few hours of college credit there earned by our graduating seniors. That's pretty amazing. That is supported by this school board, so we appreciate that. Mountain Vista Governor School graduates, Germana Scholar graduates, your the National Honor Society SEALs, and so on and so forth, and CTE SEALs, and some of those other items that we like to recognize. Happy to answer any questions you may have on any of those numbers because Mr. Hallman's in the room and he can help me answer those questions, as is Ms. Randy Richards-Lutz. No questions. Next slide should be, that's not the next slide. A few other items in terms of other diploma types that the Commonwealth issues. And now we'll go to the next slide. Eastern View High School, 380 graduates, workforce numbers, military numbers, military numbers from Eastern View combined with CCHS. Our graduating class then sending 30 students to go represent the 1% that choose to serve. And it's very proud for us to be able to do that in this community, that we have those numbers of students, that many students committed to serving our country. So that's pretty phenomenal. Other numbers there, it's not phenomenal on these other numbers. It's just that's remarkable for our size to have that many committed to the military. 2-year nursing, trade, technical schools, 129. You see 4-year numbers, industry credentials, college credit, how many credits, associate's degree. So a large number with associate's degree, both from that includes our Germana Scholars Program and the Governor's School. That's the combination there. Next slide, please. More information on college credits, different diploma seals. Next page, some additional diploma seals for this graduating class. So very, very much we feel that this graduating class of 2025 was ready for employment, enlistment, and enrollment in classes and courses at the next level. Thanks to everything that you all do to provide these opportunities to our students through the programs and the staff that we put in front of our students. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone? Hearing none, move along. Okay, next slide. Total, oh, there we go. Missed that. Grand total was 664. Everybody see that? Forgot that. Huh, I didn't say that number, but my apologies. Let's do the rates first. Ms. Metzger's going to join us up here. She's ready. So a little bit unusually at this time because as the budget process goes, we had to budget a rate increase, and our consultants recommended, after studying what our history was, our utilization rather of the health insurance program, we were looking at a 3.4% increase, and that's what we budgeted. But with the county's support and our work as well, we went out to bid. We went out to market again. Came back, and Ms. Metzger can tell you a little bit about that. But the good news in coming back, we're going to share these rates with our employees tomorrow. So this is the first time really we've shared it because we received them just last week or so. But on that list, and it's very small to see, but you have it in your board docs. Every rate on the far right column
except for the employee rate for HMO, which stayed exactly the same. All the other rates went down. So imagine that your budget accounts for a 3% salary increase for most positions, in some cases maybe slightly more, but it's also going to be a decrease in what they're paying out of pocket for health care, except for those, the HMOs that will be no increase whatsoever. And I appreciate Ms. Metzger and some of her team participating in the process, working with the county to get us to this point, but this is certainly, we just gave you some graduate good news. This is good news for our employees. So, Ms. Metzger, would you like to add to that?
Sure. I think my counterpart at the county, Amni Dingus, we've been working together for the past 3 years, really trying to make our benefits better and more competitive. Last year, we were able to get One Digital on board as our brokers, and working with them in the county this year, we were able to go out to bid for our health, our dental, and our vision. And we came back with very competitive offers. Back to Anthem, though, they gave us a great rate. We're going to have one insurance, we're going to have one card, all in one. So for our employees, paying less this year, having one card for their vision, their dental, and their health will be very exciting. And the county was able to reduce some of or they will increase what they pay so our employees can pay less. So we really appreciate them doing that. But we're working hard, trying to be competitive every year to keep our employees in good shape.
Could you show the other slide? And I can't quite explain this, but Ms. Metzger, this is our open enrollment, a new portal that's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. So Colonial Life is the one that sets out the platform. So tomorrow this flyer will be sent out with all of the open enrollment dates. We will be at Eastern View. We will have enrollers there on all of those days. We will still offer online enrollment. If you're a new employee, you have to meet with one of the enrollers so you can see all of the different programs and packages we offer. But our employees can go online and renew this year. They can have they can sign up for a digital, not in person, but rather computer visit, however you want to say that. Or they can come in person. They can see Caroline. So we have a lot of options for them. So we're going to put this out tomorrow, and then we're actually, they've created a microsite for us. So it's a very short video to employees that say, hey, come to our welcome enrollment program. And it's going to have little videos, anything that they want to know about. Maybe they want to see about our group cancer insurance. There's a little video that talks about it. So everything is going to be online, and we're pretty excited about it this year. So that's coming to everybody via email tomorrow.
Any questions, comments?
I just want to say thank you. That's one concern we hear every now and then. So thank you for prioritizing that. I can't say that word. I tried to say it twice tonight. So thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Burnett?
Thank you so much, Ms. Metzger. I just was looking off the top. I was like, wow, they're saving money. Only one card, the convenience, less stress.
Right.
That's what we want for our employees. We want them to be happy and well taken care of, and we really appreciate you heading that up. Thank you.
And I'll just echo what Ms. Burnett said, but also maybe these little videos, because sometimes the booklet is a little dry, and so maybe the videos might.
And it's healthcare is confusing. It really is with the co-pays and co-insurances and deductibles. So we try to have a little bit for everybody.
But that might be helpful, and then different ways for people to meet with the Colonial Life people is always helpful too. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. All right, I believe we are up to the instructional report by Mr. Hallman. I know you've been looking forward to this all day.
Well, I was just thinking to myself, if I'm keeping score back here, there was an SCA Advisor of the Year for the state. There was the great FEA program, this graduation information and all of those things. Now we've reduced our healthcare rates, and now I get to talk about accountability. Like Debbie Downer, I could just hear, wah, wah, that was ringing in my head. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about accountability. Some of this will be familiar since we talked about it back at the retreat, but there have been some changes, and this is the time of year that you kind of want to get refreshed, because when we come back in August, we're going to be really talking about these things a lot. So testing's over. it's now time to put on our accountability hats and start thinking about what does this new framework, what does it really look like with the results, because the calculations are all different now. So you're used to seeing this model that was very familiar. Red, yellow, green made a lot of sense, right? So it wasn't as clear, I think, as what maybe the rest of the state wanted to think about the new system, and making the numbers make a little bit more sense instead of a 400 being a pass and a 600 being an advanced score, perfect score, to talk about all of the accountability in a 100 based number system. So I'll get to that in a second. We can talk more about it. So each week, members of my staff and myself take turns. We sit in on these office hours that DOE holds every week. We can submit questions ahead of time and hope to have those questions answered during our session. And believe it or not, they've been doing this since really late fall, early winter. And every week, people like myself all across the state keep submitting questions. So there are still lots of questions to be answered about every little calculation that you can think of about kids transferring in and out and what counts and what doesn't count. So we attend that quite a bit. They have published their handbook. This is version 1.0. 2.0 is supposed to come out in the near future. This is 79 pages, and we don't have it all digested yet, but we're getting there. So all the slides that kind of look like this format are DOE slides. And I realize if you get that in board docs, it just might not make sense to you. So really, it's the explanation that comes with the slide that is the reason we're sharing. So here I'd like to take a look at, these are their guiding principles. And I won't read them all to you, but I'll draw some attention to the bold areas. In particular, number 4, I'd like to point out that the plan is to be transparent, concrete, and easy to understand in reporting. I think our challenge is going to be explaining to parents what it all means. Even if it's just the reporting, if that's easy, they might not have to understand the math to how they got there, because the math to how they got to some of these totals would be real confusing, I think, to an average parent. Not that they're not smart enough to understand it, it's just not their world that they live in. So here's the timeline of about where we are. This is the first year to use the data under the new system. So as you know, the previous year, the one we just finished, that's the data that sets our status for the next year. So even though it'll be next year, our status would be based on how we performed the year before. And I'm going to share this in a couple of different formats. The information's the same, but the view is a little bit different. This is a new model, and again, everything's going to be based on 100, because you can think of, 100's an A, right? And work your way down. I think that's why they came up with this model, but we'll see. Here's the one that you probably recognize the most. If you've been on the instruction side of the hallway, you kind of see this plastered on the walls everywhere, because we have to refer to it frequently. And I'm going to break down these categories for you. Obviously, mastery is the big component there, and then you have readiness and you have growth at elementary and middle, but it's really getting into those percentages where you start to see the differences as we go along. So elementary school, you're going to see that 45% of the SOLs for reading and math and our VAP program account for a huge chunk. And then you add 10% science and 10% progress on the Access for L's test. There's your big mastery section. Then growth. My goodness, growth is 25% of this. And you'll see later the breakdown of why that is important. The explanation for growth is a little challenging. And then readiness. And as always, chronic absenteeism is out of our control. It's really up to mom and dad to decide whether attending school on a daily, regular basis is really important. Obviously, people get sick. Some people have to go out of town for various reasons. But some of our chronic absentee numbers are really high, really high. We'd love to have them in school. I am not going to read the growth chart to you here, this slide. I think it's a lot easier to just think about growth in the way that you would. Did this kid improve from last year to this year? That's not exactly how they calculate it, but in a nutshell, they will take your previous performance and kind of project what they think you will do the following year. So that's your expected growth. We would want everybody to increase a year's worth of growth. Somewhere you might fall a little bit behind that or a little bit in front of that, and that's what they're trying to account for here. So the easiest way to explain that is probably the chart. This is a sample that they've provided. So if you see the expected 1 SE, so there's a little bit of room. I'm going to just call it the wiggle room on either side. If you made the expected growth, you're going to earn a point for the school. If you made more growth than what was predicted, you're going to get 1.25 points for the school. If you made growth but not quite as much as was expected, you get a half a point. And if you underperformed or you were below that range, you don't earn any points. Does that make sense? That might be a little bit easier than this previous slide. So, but that calculation, that piece is a big number when you're looking at the elementary calculation. All right, so middle school, we jump to 40%, 10 for science, 10 for L's, then you perform the same calculation. Then you drop down to readiness. For this year, because the career performance tasks weren't ready yet, they're counting chronic absenteeism as 10% and advanced coursework as 10%. So again, same thing with chronic absenteeism, doesn't necessarily get any better in middle school. Sometimes it gets a little bit worse with attending school. Students who perform in Algebra 1 and Geometry will earn points for us, and any student that in 8th grade that performs an advanced score in 7th will give us points, but there aren't going to be very many of those because we probably already put those advanced kids in Algebra and Geometry, so there just aren't going to be very many of those. High school, here's where things begin to change a little bit, and we'll break this down. 40% for reading, math, science, 10% progress access for L's. What's the subject you haven't heard yet? Science, reading, Ms. Hutchins? History. No calculation here for history. There's been some discussion, I believe maybe even a bill introduced to talk about bringing back history. So high school is the place where chronic absenteeism occurs the most. And right now, thank goodness, the weight is the lowest. It's only 5%, not 10 like the others, so that helps. And then readiness also includes the 6-year graduation rate, and then the 15%. The most important thing we do is graduate students from high school counts as 15%. Questions so far? So these are some of the calc tools that are provided to us, and obviously they're blank right now, but this shows you how we can plug students in, where they performed, and the kinds of points that they would earn for each category: reading, math, science, etc. And then you would add that all up and you get a growth index. Again, this is where it would start to get confusing to explain to a parent how your school is performing. When you say, well, there's points, and then it turns into a growth index, and then it's all added together, and you add in this growth, which is based on previous year scores. See the confusing part? Yeah. Then you calculate the weights and add all these things together in this elementary sample. And so you would add the mastery index components, the growth index components, add that to the readiness index components, and then you get your total for your school, and they would give us our ranking. Here's what that tool would look like. Notice, again, this is from their slide, the growth where it says 12.5 and for reading and 12.5 for math, that's the growth piece. So if you think about that entire calculation, 25% of that total is going to be from growth. So if we can actually show that kids have grown and maybe even grown beyond what was projected for them, you're going to get that 1.25 and obviously a lot more points in this category. So here are the categories. These have not changed. The one thing I would point out that notice it says the federal identification plays a role. So even if you are performing on track, but for some reason in the calculations, you would show up for federal identification, they bump you back a category. So you jump back to off track. If you were already off track and federally identified, you get bumped back to needs intensive support. That is in the calculation. Question, Ms. Hutchins?
What is the federal?
There's a rather confusing calculation, but it includes previous performance in reading, math, and science, L's performance, and chronic absenteeism. And they put you in buckets. If you did this, then go to the next step. If you did this, go to the next step. And they start to weed you out and compare our schools to all of the other schools in the state. And then they rank them so that you could fall into a category where you get ranked for federal identification. And we won't have that information for quite some time. It's usually September when we actually get that piece. We're hoping to get that sooner. Okay, here's where things change a little bit. You can see that, again, the most important thing we do, the graduation rate is 15% of that calculation. 35% is based on readiness, which is the chronic absenteeism piece, the 6-year rate for graduation. That's when kids need a little bit extra time, didn't graduate on time with their cohort. And then the 3E piece. So that's a pretty big chunk. And then you look at mastery being 50. I'll say this about the 35% calculation. Again, 5% of that for the high school rests in the hands of parents sending their kids to school. And it's extremely important. I looked at the data just recently as a point of reference. In the 24-25 school year, under this new calculation, high schools, approximately 764 high school students were chronically absent out of a count of 2,600. 760 were chronically absent. And the calculation's a little bit different, but it's still roughly your 18 days, but it's calculated based on your percent of attendance in the school division. So again, something we need to work on. These are the data points or the indicators that they look at for high school. I will not read all those. The same calculations take place. They use L progress, they use mastery, chronic absenteeism, and then they throw the readiness piece at you. And we've talked about this. There have been some changes since fall. So that one's kind of difficult to read. I'll break it into sections here. Enrollment. Basically, this is about dual enrollment and AP test scores. You get no credit for general classes, honors classes. You could be a college-bound student with straight A's in honors classes. We don't get any points for you. This is only about dual enrollment and AP scores for this particular category. This is what the original employment looked like when I showed it to you in the fall. There have been some changes, and you notice in that orange bubble, they said DOE will be working with multiple groups to better define work-based learning opportunities that incorporate work into the employment section in the future. So they have come back. And notice it was 1 point for something that was high demand, but if you look back at the top level of enrollment was 1.25 points. In the fall, the top level of employment was only 1 point. So already it was kind of out of balance. So they worked to fix that and some of the things with high demand fields. So this was the original list of things that they were going to consider for work-based learning opportunities. They have since removed a couple of those. And now this is what the new model looks like. So you can get 1.25 points for being a completer with a credential in a high demand field and completed a work-based learning experience. So that's a two-parter that you have to do to get the 1.25 points. It's great they added it because there are some folks that do that. 1 point helps out a little bit. You notice they added the or, so you could be a completer with an industry credential or completer with a state-approved recognized credential and complete a high-quality work-based learning. So that works out to capture a few more kids. The last one, I like this change. It's a half of a point, but it's for a CTE completer who completed a high-quality work-based learning experience. Maybe you couldn't or didn't pass the industry credential test, but if you participated fully in the learning experience, you at least get a half a point. So that's an improvement. All right, so these are the experiences they've landed on. There's a lot of definition here, but it's about the rigor and the connections to post-secondary career platforms, like headed that direction. So that, I think, is the main reason that they removed co-op. While our co-op kids learn the 5 C's, they learn how to work in a social situation, lots more responsibility, a lot of maturing going on. They don't necessarily working at pick any fast food place or retail store necessarily believe that that ties to post-secondary education the way the enrollment side does. So I think that's why they took this one out. But I wanted to share this with you because our students are highly successful. Virtually any restaurant or store you go into in Culpeper, if you don't see a teenager working there, I'd be really surprised. This is the data from the last 3 years. This year's number dropped a little bit because they've taken paths towards other high-quality work-based learning experiences. But the kids have to complete a minimum of 280 hours of on-the-job time, and they receive coaching and mentoring from their co-op instructor. They've earned 10,000 hours this year and $137,000 in wages in this community. And I dare say they probably learned a lot at their job, but this one does not count any longer. So we're going to have to kind of adjust to what that might look like. Now, here we go. This one is the one that is kind of really receiving the most attention. They've made minor adjustments, and you can see in the graphic there that they are still going to consider JROTC as an option in the future. But right now, it's not in there. So to frame this for you, remember what the enrollment part was, and you had a 1.25, and then they changed employment to a 1.25. Right now, enlistment does not include enlistment. And it does not include participation in JROTC. So what a lot of us have proposed is at least give us some points for being enrolled in JROTC, and even more points if that associate's degree was the top level of the enrollment piece. Enlistment should be the top level of the enlistment piece. So that's kind of what we would hope for. I've spoken to both high school principals. They are very much interested in offering more ASVAB because this whole category is only about a score on ASVAB, nothing else. It's not about the course you're taking. It's not about signing up for the Marines. It's about this test. Now, there haven't been any rules published yet. Some school divisions are testing hundreds of kids. This year, we've done what we typically done, test the kids who are interested in joining the military and an occasional kid here or there who wasn't able to pass an industry credential test. That got approved several years ago through Dr. Brad's help with the state. It would be a great tool for discussing future careers for kids. And Ms. Brown and I recently had a conversation about, you don't know what you might not be great at. Maybe taking this would say, I have a tendency to be a mechanical type person. I should go this direction. Or it doesn't have to be specifically with the military, but it might point out what some of your good strengths are. So we're going to investigate that, the possibility of administering more tests. not necessarily to play the accountability game to get the points, but if it's available to us and it's a great tool, we should probably use it a little bit more. So the high school calculation would look a little bit more like this, and you can see the totals there for all of those, including the framework. 25% of that category is the 3E framework. So we've looked at our points the best we could at this point to try to figure out where we are. And then sometime, I'm told mid-August to late August, they will give us our rating of where we stand. And this is all based on the information they need to collect from multiple sources, as you see here. The student record collection, the master schedule collection. College Board's going to have to give the AP test scores. ASVAB is going to have to come from the military, so they have to gather all that data and throw it into the calc tool and then get it back out to us. So it could be a while before we know the answer to this. And by that point, we will have had our admin conference in the summer. Our high school principals will be working on their goals because they'll have all their mastery data, and we'll be moving forward and maybe even well into a couple weeks into the school year before we get to find out what our rating is. DOE did put together, if you're dying to read more about accountability, a portion of their website, some good resources for parents, but also for teachers and folks who work like me. If there's any questions I can answer, I'd be glad to. Otherwise, I can dive into my trusty handbook here and get back to you about that answer.
You're dying. No, I'm not dying, but I'll ask. What happened to history?
When they went to performance assessments for a lot of the categories, they really stopped part of it because they're trying to align themselves with the federal model, and history is not in the federal model. So the state has driven more towards what that federal model looks like, and it's not there. And there was a bill, I think, proposed to reconsider it because we've developed a very robust performance assessment for history that kids are doing. You're teaching. You're not just teach, take this test. It's ongoing, and there's projects involved. It's great, and our kids have been very successful at performing in what's basically test conditions because they have to do it by themselves at that point in time. Maybe it'll come back in the future.
Second question. In the growth calculation,
Yes.
what is used to determine what a child is supposed to achieve?
Their previous performance. So if I took my third grade SOL, they're going to project using me and everybody in my cohort across the state to project where they think I will be in fourth grade. And that's now my target. So if I hit the target, I get that 1 point. If I go beyond that target, I get the 1.25. There's basically a standard deviation in there.
Right.
And if I don't hit the target, but I grew, I'm going to get some points. So you have to have a previous history. So if I have 2 or 3 years of previous history, they can probably nail down my expected growth a little bit better. But if I only have 1 year, it's probably harder target to predict.
Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, I have one more. The AP classes and DE, you said those are the only ones? Or is it just AP that counts?
IB, we don't do IB. Yeah, so it's for us, it's AP scores and dual enrollment.
So don't we have more in dual enrollment than we do AP?
That's been the trend of late, yes.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Could you refresh my memory on what they're considering high demand fields that are going to count?
I could. There is a long list that they've published, and I'd be glad to share that out with everybody. They've worked with employment groups across the state, and I think it was early 24, maybe June of 24, they came out with it, published a list, and it's higher level and they said high wage jobs for each of the categories. So there's the medical field, there's the technology field, and they've identified the credentials and the jobs that would be identified in that list. So we have, for example, I can show you real quick.
As Mr. Hallman's, may I?
Yes,
As
absolutely.
Mr. Hallman's looking that up, my colleague, Mr. Dean, shared an article with me recently that he saw about trends, population trends, and employment trends in the Commonwealth. And you think about what the state is defining as high demand. Great question, Deborah. And what that looks like. Well, you've got regions of the state that they are disadvantaged in terms of what's available to them. You know, and I was going to ask Rob to speak to, you know, we're talking about accountability system, but its accountability system is there for what reason? For accreditation, to rank and rate schools. And I may sound like a broken record, I may sound like I'm being defensive, but we should be accredited and accountable for our citizens here in Culpeper and the product that we produce. I mean, it's absurd to me that in this system, there are school divisions who are testing all of their junior class with the ASVAB, whether they want it or not. And we don't do that, but they're going to score out higher. Okay, that score is for the school and the school division. That score doesn't mean anything to the student. This accountability system doesn't mean anything to the 22 kids that just were hired for an electrical contractor to go work out at the Amazon facility. The 30 students that I mentioned that enlisted. 0 points for us that they enlisted, but guess what? Huge points for them and their families. To me, what is more important?
Right.
I mean, I'm probably not supposed to say those things, but this bureaucratic ranking of what we do and why we do it, it changes each and every year. It changes with the General Assembly, what's important. It changes, it doesn't matter which party is in power. This is not a political statement. It's a frustration statement of somebody else knows best what is best for our kids when we know them and we know what's available. But I know that Southwest Virginia and Southside is struggling for even the availability of high wage, high demand jobs. Because where are they? In the state, where are they? Northern Virginia.
Yep.
Which we are, but we're not quite, right? So I'll stop now, Rob, I'm sorry. But you can tell us about accreditation, maybe, or not, or stay tuned.
Yes.
Sorry.
I would say that's come up with all of the regional instructional folks, because when they said Ms. Desley, they were going to create a list regionally. So if I lived in Southwest Virginia, say in an even more agricultural place than here, if there could be a place, that if I was a tractor mechanic, that would be a high demand job for that region. But maybe if I'm a cybersecurity person that would work in a data center in that same area, that wouldn't be even something that the school division might offer. They might not even have the ability to do that. Where we have one instructor for cybersecurity, I'd be willing to bet that Loudon probably has 2 or 3 in every high school. So their ability to score on that is going to put them in a much better position than some schools that can't. But to answer your question, they basically produce a list of all the credentials, and then if you see out here on the side, there's an X. Those are the high demand ones, so I can certainly provide.
Well, the reason I was asking was, what high demand jobs did you notice on the list that we're participating with that we,
I think we're going to be
anything?
able. I think we're going to be able to find things to connect to because of what we already offer. But as far as being able to hit dozens of them, probably not.
But essentially, that's in the workforce metric of the percentage of 35% that's looking at enrollment, employment, and enlistment. And those 3 aren't treated evenly. And I'll say it, they're not treated fairly. And that's very frustrating.
Right.
I mean, what's the pinnacle for enlistment? the one that's the pinnacle, we're not getting any points for.
Right.
Now, again, I don't really care that we don't get points for it. I shouldn't say it that way, but our families appreciate that we prepared our students to help them make that choice, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
But in terms of this model, it doesn't matter. It's
Well,
not the
yeah,
pinnacle.
I appreciate what you said, which is, it's about the students, and it's very frustrating to see everything dialed down to a point. We get points for this, it's like we're at the lottery or something, and that's very discouraging, I think, to hear it that way, and I'm hoping that they're going to refine this so that it doesn't come across that way, because, earning points off of kids taking a certain test or whatever, I don't know, I just find that to just be,
I was reassured
than
that they at
laudatory.
least had it on the slide that they were going to reconsider JROTC. I think once we go through this first round of identifications, they will have heard enough information that enlistment really should be about enlistment, and we need to get some points for that.
Well, and I'm one that would agree with that. It sounds like what Ms. Brown had the discussion is, I think the ASVAB test is a very valuable test, but there's a cost to it, and I think we talked about that. Is there any movement on the state covering the cost of that if we wanted to test
For
more
us
students?
and the divisions that are pulling it off, it's probably really about staffing it with the folks from the military to come and administer the test. We're able to do our folks in like 2 back-to-back days. If a school division's picking, say, all 10th graders in a bigger school division, that would be a tough ask.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Yeah, I had one, does the ASVAB cost to give that test?
I'm not sure I know the answer. I thought it was, yeah. It does not.
There is no cost.
It's not an obstacle. It's the time to pull it off.
Oh, I was just
All right,
curious.
yeah, okay,
Just
so no
curious.
cost. But somebody has to be paid to administer it,
Right.
and that's military. And they do not have enough instructors to do this.
Military has to.
And we talked to our representatives when we had our legislative brunchfest over at CTEC, and they were all going to another meeting with military leaders, and they had that question. You've got the state going in the direction of, it's not about enlistment, it's about the ASVAB. They are underprepared to get folks out there to be trained. And they are resistant to train the trainer. So train the trainer, I'm gonna train Ms. Brown to be an administrator of the ASVAB. No, because of their standards. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 specifically.
Right.
But RTC and actual enlistment ought to count. And we're gonna keep making noise about that.
We want all of our constituents to do the same.
Yes,
Right, anybody else that way? All right, down here, Ms. Burnett.
Question, how does the accreditation ranking affect our funding?
It doesn't.
Okay.
Ironically, you would say, boy, it doesn't feel good to Mrs. Campbell and I to have 3 schools federally identified right now. But as a result, we've received grants for all 3 of those schools and have been able to provide additional professional development, additional resources, coaching, you name it. So for those 3, it may feel painful, but it's actually helped quite a bit. There's no monetary penalty for being off track. It's just going to be a lot more oversight, either from DOE with me and my staff, oversight from them in regular monitoring, and more of us pushing into the schools to make sure they're following through with their school improvement plans the way that they're now required to be written.
I just feel badly that you all have to track all this because this is a lot of work. And I mean, and it's mind boggling. My other thing that stood out in my head was that to get the dual enrollment points, that's more money for us to transport students and then to get them to go to, all the colleges around. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there is a cost
So
to
it's
that for
cost
us.
to us.
Because of the tuition piece, but also we pay our teachers a little bit extra of a stipend to teach dual enrollment. So I wouldn't count that though as part of worrying about this for our budget. we're pretty level with the number of DE teachers that we have.
All right, Mrs. Baker?
Mr. Hallman, I think when Dr. Brads talked about the point system and what it all boils down to, that helped me a lot because when you go through all of this, the first slide shows, the green, yellow, and red. And that really is all that it shows. And then you go into you're worth a point, you're half a point, you get 7.75 of a point. Those points, no child is actually going to get a printout that said, you're worth 10 points and you're worth 12 points. But the school system itself is going to be rated on those points. And that's how you get your accreditation. The kid still has to look at an SOL as a score. Am I right that that's how their parent is going to know how well
Yes.
they've progressed in school?
Yes, and
So-
that is due to change the year after this. They haven't, you've obviously heard about tying SOLs to grades and those kinds of things. They're not prepared at all right now to share that with us. They said, we're worried about this right now. We'll roll this out this year. You'll hear from us on that next year.
And are our points still the same for the SOLs? Is 400 still passing?
As of right now,
And 600 is advanced?
well, 500 is.
Oh, 500.
Yeah,
600 is
600's
perfect.
basically perfect score.
Oh, I was used to 600s. I like them.
Um,
Absolutely.
But to your point about, let's say, individual groups or students, the only individual group you saw there that was kind of circled out was the L's. So if I'm an L that shows a lot of growth and passes my SOL test, Mrs. Campbell will tell you back there, she's shaking her head, I'm going to earn a lot of points. Now, again, it doesn't mean anything to that student, but it shows the effort that our teachers have gone to get that L that much growth to the point where they pass their test.
But it would work against you in the same way that if you had a student who was maybe in a minority or had a disability, or maybe an English learner, and happened to be low socioeconomic, is that child in all four categories counted against the system?
They are now, the way they've calculated this, all of that information is going to be reported back to us, but all kids are lumped together now. It's basically all students instead of this group, this group,
So
this
there
group,
are
this
no
group.
subgroups anymore. It's just.
They're just not going to report it
Okay.
in the same way they always have.
And when they look at your previous results, and they look, now that's not an individual though, they're looking at a group of people to get a composite of a regular result, right?
Well, they are going to look at mine, but then that's on that growth side. I'll let you read it for yourself. They're finding everybody in my cohort across the state, and they are comparing us as a group and projecting where we are as a group. So that's why it's going to take so long to get the growth information back, because they have to do that for the entire
And
state.
does your cohort include your race, your ability, and your socioeconomic standard?
It does, but not for calculations. They know who the
But wouldn't that be
children
your,
are.
that would be your cohort though?
Yes.
Okay.
It's part of what will be reported to us, but you're just not going to see it the same way that it's been in the past.
But that's how we're graded as a county school system,
Yes.
based on a composite of who knows. That just doesn't, they could come back and say, you just have a bunch of turnips in your district. It's just not seem.
Actually, I think
fair.
we're gonna have some good numbers from growth.
And so,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Pearson, do you have something?
I just want to say thank you for doing such a good job of presenting this.
Sure.
And answering the questions of our fellow board members, because there's obviously a lot to digest and have some concerns about. And so I just want to say
We've got
thank you.
our trusty handbook. We, even every day, Mark and I will say, what did they say in that office hours? And we have to just go back and double check. So till we learn it all, we'll double check.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
I had one more question.
Sure.
In all the office hours that staff has attended, did anybody ever bring up about the shuttering of the Department of Education, how that's going to change all this now that this is, because they're talking about federally identified for this and that? I'm just curious.
I think because they are Virginia DOE, I don't think they're going to weigh in a whole
They're not
lot
gonna worry about it.
on that topic. They're just here to explain the new accountability model to us, and and really nothing more.
But they're basing it on a lot of the federal stuff. So to me, that's just kind of concerning. You know, it's going to be a waste of time, possibly. You know,
Yeah.
that we don't have extra time like that.
And just like
So nothing was
DOE, I'm
ever
not
brought
going to
up
weigh
or
in on
said.
that.
Nothing was ever brought up though, as far as
Yeah.
questioning that. Right?
Yeah, understood.
Okay, I was just curious. You know, I'm not
No,
trying
they
to put you on
haven't.
the
They haven't
spot.
mentioned concerns about that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dean, finance report, please.
Man, Rob makes finance seem pretty light now. All right, so tonight's update, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Brads. Tonight's update, we start with revenues. We know our state, our primary sources of our revenues are state, federal, and county. State being the biggest in the blue, so let's drill into it. This is nothing new. The DOE's major cutoff is March 31st for our average daily membership. That's what drives our state funding primarily. So this is the same slide as last month, no changes. Our budget of $8,340, we're 176 short. What does that equal? So putting it to the calculation, it's about $1.4 million short, or 1.2% of our total budget. So again, we've talked about this as well. How do we offset this? We're going to offset it with our federal revenues. We're positive to budget, and then also expenditure savings. And we'll see those savings as we go through our next slides. Looking at our year-to-date expenditures, we're right at $100 million, $99.9 million for the school operating fund, which is 84%. And then for food service, we're at $4.1 million, which is 89% of our expenditure budget. Looking a little deeper at our school operating fund, again, it's very consistent, 8 to 9% every month. May was 8%. The only differences are July and June, and that's because our 10 and 11-month contract employees. Right now, we have $19.4 million remaining of our budget for June. So drilling in month to month and comparing to prior year, how are we running? Very, very consistent. No major changes, but we are running with a savings over last year. You can see we're at 1.7% less than last year, 83.7 this year versus 85.4 last year, with June just remaining. Looking at our expenditures for food service, it is a little more lumpy because it depends on our meals served per month. So it ranges 8 to 11% in our operating months, and then it varies in our shorter months. Right now we have 11% remaining for June. Again, they have 10 and 11-month contract employees, so same scenario with them. There's $526,000 remaining. When we drill into the month to the month and compare it to prior year, 88.7% this year versus 89.6% last year, so that's 0.9% savings there as well, with June remaining. And keep in mind, I know I feel like I'm racing through this a little bit, but keep in mind that that's free breakfast and lunch, first year for that. And we served, I believe, let me check, 48,000 more meals this year than we did last year, with 6 less days. So that's a 3.9% increase. So kudos to Greg Beamer and his crew who has controlled expenditures. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
All right,
All right.
thank you very much.
Yep.
Operations report, Dr. O'Brien.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Brads. I'm happy to give you our operations report that's covering mostly May. as well as some of the projects that are ongoing here. You have the A.G. Richardson. We're doing that roof coating. Below you can see the work orders we had. Actually, that's for May, not April. I apologize for that typo, but it shows you what we've been doing in facilities and maintenance. We did replace the fire alarm system and then have started working on the zones over at Eastern View. So you can see that new equipment that went in. The advantage of this is we also have the old equipment that will help us service some of the other zones moving forward. So we have some leftover parts that we can recycle into the system as we need to. Next, we did some work at the bus garage. We renovated some office space and repainted the restrooms. We also redid the flooring, so it's a nice space ready for a new tenant, as well as cleaning up those restrooms just to make them a better place for our drivers to go there. And we have been doing the VAV boxes that you might have recalled from our capital improvement in terms of replacing the controllers at Pearl Sample. That's going to help us get a better hold and control over our air systems down there. And at Emerald Hill, we are doing the flooring replacement. You don't see that floor in there because this is an in-progress picture, and you see all the old tile being pulled up as they work to get that done. We did some furniture moves for ESY as well as for prep. It's still doing all of our HVAC work throughout the summer and finished that work on that food closet upgrade, the little trailer that's over by Sycamore Park and Floyd T. Benz. Here's our counts for our meal counts, and I know Neil just spoke to this as well. You can see how we do month to month from May of 2024 to May 2025. You can see that we were up in terms of our lunch counts. A la carte still seems to be an area that we're just losing ground in, and that's been pretty consistent over the last 2 years, actually. This is what our yearly looks like. You can see how we are doing on our lunches are all up. However, again, the a la carte's down, and our breakfast is pretty stable in terms of the numbers. That's our CEP count. Again, just giving you that update as we did previously. And for technology, I know I'm going fast too, but for technology, we have some A-phone installations we did at AGCMS, Yale, Farmington, Sycamore Park. And as you might recall, an A-phone is one of those things where you come up and you push the button so somebody could recognize you before they open the door and grant you access. Replacing those are new so that more folks can answer that call just to help with the level of service when somebody's coming to visit the school. We did Chromebook collections, doing a lot of invoicing as well as working with our ITRTs to get them all in and check them for repairs. We did some repairs at the server rack at Emerald Hill and added some additional badge swipes at A.G. Richardson too. This is our ticket count for May. You can see one of our Chromebooks that has what's called bleed through in the screen. Somebody put pressure on it. Of the 824 tickets we received, 623 were Chromebooks. So our crew did collect all those Chromebooks from all of our students virtually and are doing a lot of repairs and getting them all back ship shape ready for the coming school year. Transportation. This is kind of an end of year summary that I pulled some reports from Synovia, our GPS. So overall, our buses did 1.2 million miles, roughly from August 7th through May 22nd. Our vans did 138,000 with a total number of miles of about 1.4. By the end of the year, when I do my report for the state, we'll probably be at about 1.5 million, which is where it's been for the last couple of years. The total number of bus stops we did was 410,000. Of those, 357,490 were on time, or if not, a little early, which gives us about 87%. Previously, we were about 90, so that's kind of within range, understanding that any pickup or drop off outside of 5 minutes is considered late. I actually grabbed a view of that report so you can see it to know what kind of information I actually get from Synovia. It tells you what the bus is, as well as it shows up on the right. The plan time, that's the time that the bus is supposed to be there. In this case, this bus, bus 13, arrived at the stop at 6:19 instead of 6:13, so it was dinged as being late. And it was late, but not by a whole lot, considering all the other stops thereafter were considered on time. So it's always that first ping on it. When I ran through this data as an audit with our Director of Transportation, she also noted that some of our drivers don't necessarily come in and report that they might have adjusted their times just a little bit, but enough that it does cause some flaws with the data in terms of the reported, the planned time, and the actual time, if that makes sense. Drivers have to report back to the routing specialist so he can adjust those times for them. And that's all I got. I know I went quick.
All right, does
Any
anybody have any
questions?
questions? Nope, this way? Nope.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, it's up to board members' comments, and I believe we're probably down to Betsy. Ms. Smith, would you be first? I was thinking that, but I didn't want to.
Because you almost left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, Ms. Desley, evidently you're first.
I've said enough for one night. I'm good, thanks.
All right, then we're going this way. Ms. Burnett?
I just want to give a big thank you to the staff, admin. You all have done an excellent job. I feel like this was the final exam tonight. And you all passed with flying colors. I'm so grateful and thankful to have you all in our community. And, you know, you make it happen. And without you, I don't know. We are just such a fine example of teamwork and getting our students prepared for the 3 E's, enrolled, enlisted, and what was it? Employed, yes. So thank you all so much, and have a wonderful break if you get one.
All right, Ms. Pearson?
Again, just thank you to staff, and I hope you all have a great summer. I
Ms.
know
Baker?
you're already starting to work on next year, too.
Same thing, happy and safe summer.
Ms. Hudgens?
The graduation data by the numbers is always impressive, and it gets more impressive every year, and it only gets there because of everybody from kindergarten up. It's not the high school that makes it happen. It's the foundation that starts and builds for those students to be able to be successful and to move on. So thank you to everyone involved in getting our students to that point and moving them forward. I'd like to thank Mr. Hallman for helping me understand a little bit better that convoluted situation. I know I still have questions for another time. And thank you all again, and enjoy your summer.
Ms. Smith?
Really ditto. How can you really say much more? It's just a pleasure to see the success that we have, and I truly believe it's because of collaboration and the value that our staff places on our students and their education. And I have to say, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this one, but it starts with leadership at the top. So Dr. Brads, I want to thank you for the culture and the attention that you give the excellent leadership to our division.
All right, I have nothing I can add to all of that, other than information items, the summary of the Culpeper County School Board Committee reports online, membership, and the May VSBA policies reviewed but not revised. Future meeting dates, capital planning, June 18th at the school board office at 8:30. Finance Committee will meet again on June 23rd, 5:15 at the regular board meeting that is at the central office. The business work session is that same night on the 23rd at 6 o'clock. The Finance Committee will meet August 11th at the County Administration's building at 5 o'clock. And the regular board meeting will start at August 11th at 6 o'clock here in this same location. Mrs. Hutchins, will you read us into a closed session?
I move that the school board convene a closed session at 7:39 PM to consider the following personnel matters pursuant to the Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A1. the appointment of certified personnel, the appointment of classified personnel, the transfer of certified personnel, the transfer of classified personnel, the separation of certified personnel, the separation of classified personnel, the approval of technology summer interns, the approval of maintenance summer workers, the approval of EVHS co-op student, the approval of instructional supplements for the 2025-2026 school year, the approval of club coaching supplements for the 2025-2026 school year, and the discussion of the superintendent's evaluation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, it's a toss-up. Ms. Burnett seems to want it more. And is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are in recess for our closed meeting. We will start it in, let's say, 5 minutes. Does that work?